focused on the game at hand. Already, with Cogmore as one of the early bans cleared in the first round ban list, KT efficient for OPs.
They certainly are. Of course, there's a Zac and a Galio still there, and you always look towards the blue side team and say, how much do you want them?
You give them Caitlyn, and I think this game is over, so I feel like OMG need to ban Caitlyn.
Yeah.
They'll ban Galio on blue side, and now it's Caitlyn or Zac, or ban neither of them and give over nothing. Giving over the Zac here instead of willing to trade the Caitlyn lets you know how much people respect Death's Caitlyn, and also the drop-off from Caitlyn and Kalista to the rest of the bunch.
So what do OMG actually get here now that they've given over Zac to score, which it's going to be tough. I mean, last time we saw this in the tournament coming out from the LPL, at the very least they got like a Galio for it. But
usually,
this time, if they first pick Cogmore again, it could be a possibility.
I was watching the draft backstage, and I was wondering how you could ban Thresh and give over a Zac. But remember in that game, it felt like Flash was kind of reversed the script. Their bot lane didn't have a lot of synergy. There were a lot of issues after the Zac was given up. So far, loving the draft for KT. And when it comes to power picks for OMG, the Rakan has evolved into that. No Kalista to make his life easier.
Yeah.
Now we're looking at the second pick, probably going to be a jungle answer.
I look towards the Rek'Sai as arguably the best choice. I would say this is one of the silliest choices that you'd be going towards, but the Rakan with it, it's nice. It means they have the duo. I don't feel it. I'm not feeling it.
I mean, you look at Deft this season, Xayah's not been a priority for him, 1 and 2 on the season. So probably wouldn't have been reaching for it in this particular scenario. They're hiding their jungle, which maybe means that Jericho has something special to show us in answer to Zac. We've seen some pretty crazy picks in other regions, and you're right, they will still surrender a lot of straightforward champions in the bot side. Could have been Ashe or Varus, you'd feel for them.
And then you've immediately got your Tahm Kench as an option if you want for Mata. You can play the Braum if you want to deny the Xayah through her laning phase. We have seen good Xayahs, to be fair. I'll still look towards Arn and say he was an absolute machine on the champion, but giving over the Ashe, giving over the Zac, multiple engage tools, it's kind of nuts what they've got already.
Absolutely.
And KT show respect to the duo here by picking for lane, and ultra picking for lane in Ashe and Zyra. Theory here is that Zac is off disrupting the enemy backline. Zyra's trying to keep people away from the Ashe.
And stylistically, you look at SMLZ and it's like totally fine he's on a hyper carry. Five's had some incredible Rakan performances, but yeah, right now, KT Rolster seem to have gotten everything they want. Meanwhile, OMG, they do lock in the jungle. Eventually, will be the Rek'Sai over to Jericho.
And because they're on the red side, they're going to have to choose between blind picking one of their solo lanes. And the idea of blind picking top lane sounds like a headache, but I think they have to give Icon pressure on Pawn, who will just default to an Orianna or a Victor blind. So it feels like it's going to be once again on Smeb, who's had some good starts, then been repeatedly ganked in previous games on champions like the Jace.
Which is very curious here. For KT's bans, do they look towards the Kassadin, take these assassins away from Icon champions that let them 1-3-1 or get out of control in the side lanes, or they actually still respect what the first pick's going to be from OMG in the second pick phase of that top lane?
Actually do ban away Xiang's Renekton. Renekton and Kled were probably one of the two big ones for him, so already going to be an interesting scenario, trying to even more lopsided the top lane matchup. But I follow what you're saying. Icon does love the assassins. You can't ban out both, so LeBlanc, for example, will be available if the Kassadin is banned away.
Exactly.
Basically guaranteed to have blind pick top lane come in unless the script has gone completely out the window. I guess Icon could jump on Corki if he doesn't want to, if he really wants to shore up the top lane. But it's so hard to work out whether it's minimizing the risk or maximizing the reward is the right thing to do with first pick, as the LeBlanc is actually the one that does get the target ban.
Yeah, a couple of question marks now on what SMLZ will lock in for his team here. There will be that mid laner. Corki is still available, as you mentioned, but so is the likes of Orianna, a Taliyah here as well for Icon if he wants it, and it has been locked in.
Expectations usually seeing the Taliyah seems to unlock the Corki. They do go hand in hand when you watch drafts play out, but you're right, there's always the Orianna you can default to. Not a bad combination when you look at the team comp that KT Rolster's got for themselves. They can go that control mage, but this is also another nice option. Just a lot of damage, and Zac has so much crowd control anyway.
And you might think, oh, of course you'd favor the Orianna, because Orianna, Zac, think of the AoE Wombo, but it's so much in Wombo that Flash almost answers two champions instantly. So going Corki, having lane pressure on the Taliyah, and also options, I think, is pretty good, and a nice adaptation from KT. The blind pick here almost feels like a denial pick. A lot has been banned away. Rumble is really the only champion that does well into Jarvan that's left available outside of maybe a Kennen. but they're taking Jarvan as a denial.
Yeah.
And we'll see where Xiang wants to go. A tank player by trade.
Yeah, with the Kled gone as well, Shen is actually one of those few champions. You say maybe that is where he looks towards. It's not by any means a bad choice into the J4, who doesn't have the outright most OP laning phase.
Now, if it wasn't a Zac, you'd be like, okay, suddenly the Xayah is going to stand and deliver. But Zac can also pull out the kidnap, pull you back with a let's bounce, and stop the positioning and the shield from both being there. If Xayah's in the back line with 3,000 effective health and anywhere near the lifesteal we saw from Han, she can do a lot. But in this particular case, the Zac could be the final piece of the puzzle for KT.
And it's frightening as well. When you have a Jarvan alongside it and you've got two massive damage dealers, you have the Arrow as well. It seems like the Bash Bros are just going to be on top of SMLZ all the way through this game. That being said, there is a Shen here. There is some heal, though it is, you have to feel, going to revolve around SMLZ.
Heal against Zac and Jarvan. Good luck, I say. Best wishes for that one. Xayah is going to have to be well-positioned back, or OMG are going to have to pull it out in the early game and make sure that these two are standing on wards at all points, because the safe position against these two is maybe the cue for the next game.
Yeah, and a lot of this for me, the weirdest thing to take from this is we mentioned the mismatch perhaps in the top lane between OMG and KT. Well, they've picked in a way that doesn't make top weak. They have made sure that Xiang doesn't get outright countered. Zac isn't the most impactful jungler in the early game as well. He needs to get some levels into him, and Rek'Sai is always able to pressure early. We saw it from Clear Love earlier in the day. Your mid lane is both roam, but your bottom lane is now in a very dangerous position where usually OMG look towards that as the carries.
Only a couple of seconds left getting into game 3.
Such a surreal position to be in as an LCK analyst. Backs against the wall. I need to believe in KT Rolster and MVP for the LCK to be the triumphant region here at Rift Rivals. All the games yesterday, you saw all the plays. The games, sometimes they were wacky, sometimes they were clean. Largely, you just came away thinking this is going to be Korea's time to shine. Suddenly, the script's been flipped.
KT are the expected team to obviously take this, but that has happened time and time again in this series. And the LPL has still come out on top. We're heading into game 3. OMG up against KT.
Nobody expecting to be in this position, honestly. Even the viewers at home will be mostly confused as to how we're 2-0 up for the LPL. But this is definitely, as you mentioned, that position where KT can start to bring it back for the Korean region. They're setting up right now. OMG, they seem to be attuned to how Zyras want to play out laning phase, trying to maybe prevent those seeds from going down.
They would love a level 1 that was along the lines of Game 2, where Faker's life was given up, and in general, the Cassiopeia could not have the repeat performance against the Galio. That was one of the main reasons that WE found it so easy to stick the landing against SKT. So far, no shenanigans.
Yeah, we look towards the jungle clear as well for this one. Zac will definitely want to go to the bottom side, but with a Zyra and an Ashe, there's no tank to get them the red buff super low, and so he's not going to have that accelerated clear that you do often want to see for a Zac, whose early levels are rather weak. Needs level 3 to be able to clear rather successfully as well.
And he's just going to start this one off. Actually, with Smep coming, getting a bit deep there. Seems like he may place down a water. We're just spotting out where Jericho is starting to give him his team some information. Score's going to be doing the same on his side. Probably taking these small Raptors, though there is no help from Deft Amada, so he probably will take this whole camp. Smep is being blocked a little from getting inside of lane, and Xiang will get a nice bit of poke down on top of him.
He didn't want them to be able to pull the sword through, so that didn't happen. Still a nice trade, like you mentioned, as Smep already has to chug some of the corrupting potion. His investment was in getting the ward onto the red buff to give more information. The clear order from Jekko.
He'll take his own red buff, Score doing the same, so pretty much mirrored starts right now for both of the junglers.
Yeah, but the Rek'Sai will do that just a little bit quicker, already moving over to his wolves. He can now go towards the bottom side if he wants to level 3 Scuttle Crab towards bottom as a gank. The wards that people place at level 1 start to die earlier on in the game, and Icon's already advancing in to try and get some vision. That is a possibility for OMG here.
The level 3 Scuttle Crab with the 1 experience Quint is something that Score had done recently on the Rift. You see that Jericho has gone the same routes. 2 attack speed Quints and 1 experience been the common clear. So he will go bot lane Same sort of pathing. You see KT this time being a bit more respectful, though.
It is a Rakan. The ganks are serious.
5 is approaching. Comes in with a flash immediately. Mata up against the one. First blood to the LPL team. OMG.
Yeah, it seemed like Deft knew the script there, but Mata, even with Flash, not able to get away. The level 3 gank from Rek'Sai, taking over the world, works well, and it's another first salvo for the LPL.
And you can see 5 even trying to predict the flash early out of the Zyra, just in case 2 circle areas where you're going to get knocked up, where there's no way to get out of the crowd control. So OMG cover their bases, saying we have enough damage to remove a very squishy Zyra off the rift. They reset bottom, might even have an early recall with that kill as well, and get some extra swords.
All Score can really do in the face of this power farm his way to level 4, and Zach getting closer to 6 is relevant, but
Oh yeah.
his ability to pressure lanes is pretty minimal as a jungler. Even early, Shen's got the Doran shield. Corki in the mid lane doesn't have the burst just yet. So Score will get the early camp, Score will get the early ride towards 6, but OMG, crucially, get the early pressure in bot lane.
Especially when you first rotation a Rakan and Xayah, you really need to get it rolling. That being said, the kill did go over 2-5, but OMG are not going to be too unhappy with that one. Score right now has to resign himself to counter jungling and see if he can get anything done before he hits that level 6 mark as well. Because you do expect that Zach to do a lot of work. And Xiang is obviously not having a bad time at all in the top lane.
No, not at all. He's winning actually in those trades. No pots left for Smeb.
Score seems unclear which side of the jungle is his, waiting for the Raptors to spawn on the enemy side. Having a lot of fun, so they'll probably just trade Raptors in this case.
Yeah, so nothing really to write home about, but Zirko is responding in kind, and you heard it from the analyst there. Zirko has definitely not been performing in comparison to all the other junglers at the tournament, but so far has not been a weakness for them.
He's level 5, so the ganks from Score are very legitimate. Even his positioning here is nasty.
Follow after misses the stretching strike, and Jericho is also here for the counter gang. So in the end, Score, that's going to dissipate.
Good lane positioning there from Icon, sometimes guilty, not reading the map well. The power farm to level 5, like you say, Rusty, makes you just about the hardest jungle to predict in terms of angle. But for once, Zach couldn't quite make the jump in and get the first CC.
And a lot of this comes back to the point I feel like we were making before as well. They pick a decent top lane, decent top side of the map, and the bottom lane 2v2 against an Ashe Zyra doesn't have the most lane pressure, but by getting that early kill down there with the Rek'Sai, they start to change the pace of this game. The control of the map may slowly shift, yet that impending doom feeling of a Zach just being on the rift at all is where you direct your eyes towards. Score at 6, may be able to take everybody out.
That being said, Xiang is almost level 6 himself, so he will be able to respond in some small part to Score's ganks if he goes mid lane or bot lane, maybe even looks for these skirmishes in the jungle. So it's not like OMG don't have any answer to him whatsoever.
Zach has been defeated, but if you ask for my estimation, it was related to the team comp that was put together by the Flash Wolves that really didn't capitalize on long-range engage. A lot more options here, specifically with the synergy between Smeb and Score, but also Pawn can maneuver himself around to fight and do backline damage as well.
Yeah, you've got your package there. You've got the Ashe arrows, Jarvan for other engage tools as well. It doesn't all need to be reliant on the Zac in this game.
Mata can do his best Wolf impression, get a 3-man grasping roots. That'd be good too.
Seen this one before, but this time, Deft to spot him out. There is a ward in the bush, so Zirko will be quite happy with this one, take it away, but it means he won't get a gank off on this time.
Very different warding here, actually, from KT in comparison to that of what we saw from Samsung against the Taliyah. There's no control ward focus around the bottom side of the jungle, and Icon is using that as an opportunity to push in harder than Corki can and disappear to where his wards are, always threatening the bottom 2v2. This means that KT, they're not feeling safe. They've actually changed up where they're going completely right now. They're moving top.
They have no ward control around the bottom side of the jungle. Their red side and also the river is run by OMG, and the Taliyah also will have the fast track through. So they're just going to go top side, try to play around an area where they can create vision, and Shen famously, it's not going to be great for the wave clear.
And of course, the Shen, maybe he can help the rest of the team if they get ganked.
Go to the Shen,
who's going to help the Shen?
Yeah.
Well, the answer doesn't seem to be Rek'Sai, who's just on the Raptors, eventually seems to pass over.
And OMG have to know something's up here. They've been missing for so long. KT's bottom lane don't exist.
Xiang. Okay, guess the long-range ward actually over the wall will spot Mata, so
And
at
he
the very
knows to
least he won't
evacuate.
die. Bot lane now pushing in, big wave themselves, but you know that the tempo advantage will be over to KT now.
And this was the only way they could really create a tempo play when bot side players were impossible. Taliyah and Shen would always rotate first, even though, something we mentioned just now, it is a teleport Corki, not the usual exhaust or heal. It's the first time we have seen a Korean team played Teleport Corki all season. I'm going to take a pick from the WE playbook.
I think this is the first time Corkies have run Teleport all season in general was at this tournament. I'm inclined to say yes to that.
Map rotational play, definitely a GA special, but clearly Horn is taking some inclination. Now they're trying to go for a second turret here. They're already pushed up, not respecting it all. Rek'Sai still jungling around the bot side.
Yeah, and 5 should be recalling if that's the play coming out of KT, but he's taking his time. SMLZ can use the empowered recall out of the Rakan if they want to defend it, but KT, they choose to not take the 2 turrets themselves. They'll back away, and we just get the trade.
There'll be another dragon as well over to OMG. I say another is the first one of the game, but it is a Cloud Dragon, and it's still technically around this laning phase area at 8 minutes, so OMG will be happy with this one in the early game. Looks like the next dragon's also an Ocean, however.
When you rotate that early, you don't have the Rift Herald as a fallback. Objective doesn't spawn till 10 minutes. They get a deep control ward and a ward on the red buff, so a bit of vision. Whereas the vision a lot more shallow than what OMG's gotten, but in terms of immediate objectives, picking up the Drake is still something to factor into the side of OMG.
And right now, KT haven't fallen massively behind, though it is even on towers. The first kill obviously went over to OMG. Yeah. We're really waiting for this game to kind of explode, Rusty, because when there is a Zac, when there's a Death with the arrow ready to just launch on someone, you expect fireworks to be popping off.
And this is naturally the place you'd be looking towards. Smeb has his teleport up reasonably soon. They might be waiting for that window of opportunity where Shen has the ultimate even if he doesn't have teleport. So it's a needless risk to be diving the bottom lane without your Jarvan able to join the fray. And you just saw him running around in the bottom area of the map. That's their way of compensating for it. Horn also has TP, and he's now going to be the one responding to the top side of the map. So they can at least equalize numbers, and that's a good way to prevent OMG from being playmakers.
Right now, you can just see Icon shoring up the mid lane. Score keeps getting caught on these wards, but it's just taking them away. And we really haven't seen him strike just yet. Jericho is looking to make something happen on the bottom side. Sees that ward as he places down the control ward over the wall as well. Also sees the speed shrine set up by the crab. And it's all around this vision. Yeah, it's pretty much just a game of battleships right now.
As you say, OMG have been able to stick vision, but a lot more shallow than you remember the vision they had before the lane swap. Maybe KT's read here is that because, in general, these Chinese teams, I feel, have been focusing on objectives and kills much more than picking up the 2 wards in the enemy jungle you can get in the same case. If they keep rotating around, they can minimize the effect of, say, the Taliyah or the Shen. Because in previous metas, when you were against the global teams, back when the, say, TF Shen Nocturne meta, it was actually the team with the globals that wanted this to happen because you'd catch people in translation, catch people rotating around the map. So far in this game, KT have picked up incremental vision, but really nothing else. But given the fact that they lost First Blood and they're against globals, they'll be happy with how things turned out.
Yeah, your concern's always going to be just the CS values on Deft right now. Yes, he's on a facilitating champion, but SMLZ having a 25 odd CS lead starts to get close as the wave crashes. But he's ahead, and he is on a champion that if given the opportunity can still hyper carry, can still hyper scale, and Xayah, he has got the ultimate to outplay the Zac as well. So ultimately, like, you're looking at these team compositions and saying, we're waiting for the moment that the Zac makes the play or the Jarvan makes the play, but they haven't. And as it stands, OMG very much content with how this has panned out.
Exactly. SMLZ is going to be happy as well. Goes back to base one more time. We'll see how much gold he has in the back pocket. It's going to be the Berserker's Griefs. Probably will be selling that Spellfuse Edge. Picks up another longsword as well. So for now, looking to hit those power spikes. Fon just goes back to base, gets his Phage. So looking towards that Triforce. It may even be those first item power spikes before we see KT pull the trigger on these engages.
Yeah, vision for now around the Herald here for KT, and the Herald should be a pretty straightforward objective given that Xiang is largely going to be deep farming. One of the reasons SMLZ entering the top side is to give them at least a semblance of shove. Now that the Rift Herald is a realistic objective to be contested. 5 walks up and does kill the control ward. So already OMG reading the map smartly and trying to get their own advantages on the top side.
For now, it is just the calm before the storm, really. We'll see if there is actually a contest from KT around this Herald. Because OMG have the vision around it right now and are removing all the vision that KT have. They are mobilizing bot side, however. Score, you can see with the bot lane, look to take the tower. So It might be that trade. That being said, SMLZ also slowly pushing in the top side as well.
And they are sacking Shen completely here from OMG. They're doing their absolute best to make these trades, and whilst it feels like there's slight tempo, actually mid.
Engage in the mid lane. Smeb does get the quick flank and drag. Arrow coming across as well, but doesn't find its mark. And OMG simply walk away, though 5 taking a bit of a risky route there, but will make his way back to the tower.
Gonna give up the Rift Herald in this play, KT. Feels eerily similar to Samsung and some of their trade downs. Not as much immediate gold onto OMG in terms of kills, but game flow pretty similar to that of Samsung's game 1.
Letting up small objective after small objective. 1 kill here and there over to OMG to the LPL side. And again, when do they pull the trigger? In the last series when we saw this happen, EDG just kind of took a Baron and then won the game, but OMG are definitely a different beast when it comes to those type of plays.
Baron tanking, pretty straightforward for them. Baron damage for now is going to be something that's going to be a bit too difficult to put out.
With the Herald in the back pocket of Dieko as well, they could look towards the mid lane outer, the last remaining outer after the turret trades that have happened, and both having control mages essentially in this mid lane. I'm going to still call Corki a control mage. He's mostly magic damage now. We'll be able to clear the waves. It's hard to break those turrets, and to break those turrets, you know, you've got your Ashe arrow, your Zac engages, still very nice to get through. Mid lane is Zac's best gank lane, simply because of the side brushes, if you have the control wards there, and even behind them, it's just about the vision.
So when does the engage happen for KT? Is it going to be those first item power spikes? Will it be on the Ocean Dragon in 30 seconds?
I think it's less about when and more about where. Because right now, there just hasn't been a spot. We've never been like, score, where's the elastic slingshot? Just because they've been trading around the map, trading down slightly. But because of the vision disadvantage and global disadvantage, they didn't really have any other option but to trade and trade down minutely in different roles. They're actually ahead 200 in gold, but that's just about how CS is being passed around among all the members, and that's just keeping a bit competitive in bot lane. So the objective could be Ocean Drake. That is the second spawn.
Of course, there's very nice timings when you have Corki's package that you just saw on your screen to go 4 fights around the objectives, such as the Drake.
An insert comment about Trinity Force and Sorcerer's Shoes being completed on the Corki. So
Spike, spike, spike.
I still feel like the where is the more interesting question. It seems like KT really want to fight around Drake. And let's see what OMG read into this, because like you say, the item spikes here are pretty insane for KT.
Well, partner strong. You just saw him hit SMLZ as he backs off. Again, clearing out this mid lane. That being said, KT will be able to just take away all of the vision around this dragon. I mean, OMG, honestly, at this point in time, will not be too unhappy if KT take a dragon.
No, and actually, if you were OMG, you see them at the Drake if you get vision just below into the river of where the Zac is. Of course, they can't see him right now. Then they can put the Herald mid. They can make the play where there's the members mismatch on the map.
They're wondering where Score is, Rusty. He's actually just sitting in a control ward.
Covert ops.
They don't have too much information.
Can't see them
Both
either,
teams need some vision here.
Ashe just gave it to them, and Score's just charging up nothing.
Yep. And that Herald is starting to run down in its time. It will be needs to be used.
It could have just placed it mid for it.
Yeah.
I think if they didn't spot Score with the Hawk shot, they just would have done it.
Yeah.
Purely
Icon
so
still didn't find him.
The Herald would force his positioning.
He's about to find him.
Oh, he doesn't
Hello.
see him.
No, he's still there,
now.
but he actually steps outside of the brush. Chom comes down, Arrow connects onto
Zaya.
Zaya. Lots of damage coming in from Bomb, but he needs to back away. Featherstone comes
Smeb,
in
watch
and
Smeb.
looking for the flank as well. Smeb comes in. Where's the Cataclysm? And Pawn gets the first kill. 2 kills over to the KT lineup. Icon being shoved out with his ADC. And Chiang, yes, he gets the kill onto Score, but at what cost?
Ends up being a 2 for 3 overall. Smeb didn't even use the Cataclysm the entire time. Never felt like he had a position to actually get a preferential engage or follow-up. Playing front to back as the Zac slowly died. The extra damage from the item spikes does win out for KT.
Exactly right, and just how difficult it is to take apart that Zac when he's been free farming for so long, completing his jungle items. There's not a lot of shred on the side of OMG until they get the second items completed, and we get to see this again. Of course, Icon briefly spots him, and they commit a lot just to taking out Score.
Yeah, it wasn't a big kidnap from the Let's Bounce. That was interrupted by the charm. But as you watch the fight, Def flashes over a wall to get involved in the fight. He felt like all the damage was gone at this point. It was a pretty good read. Could just turn onto Xiang. So creative and very aggressive flash from Deft pays off, and that's why they slightly trade up, as finally the Rift Hold, I imagine with almost no HP left, is summoned.
Yeah, almost no cooldown left on it, so it will be eventually brought into the mid lane. Not going to take the tower, but Deft will take it out right here. Essentially had to be used. That being said, OMG are using that pressure to go for this dragon. Five is getting shoved back by Pawn, but I don't think this is going to be the completion. All of KT here to
It looks
contest.
like OMG have hard committed to this one. Score, he's looking.
It's going to be a smite contest if he wants to
Dante
happen, and
gets
it's the steal for Score. Needs to get out of this
It's
one
Smeb,
now,
still
but
has
the instant
Cataclysm.
kill onto Mata. Arrow goes wide. OMG, do they want this fight? It's a 4 versus 5, but Xiang blasted away. Smeb comes in with a Cataclysm, and Pawn, both of the AD carries are free firing right now onto OMG. 2-for-1 trade.
Big fight coming out of KT. Again, just using the Zac engage. OMG committing to an area where Icon didn't even block them off. So they get the fight. They continue to get these extra kills and advantages crop up for them.
And the cooldowns just weren't there. Stand United on cooldown. Only now Featherstorm coming up. So Xayah basically has to say, sorry guys, there's nothing I can do. I don't have my peel tool. Bash and heal down on the Xayah. Every time you win a fight as KT, you can turn with Ashe and Trinity Force Corki and turn onto turrets.
Absolutely.
And while they don't die instantly, then take a stiff breeze to take them next time around.
And the thing that really scares you the most for watching OMG's decision-making there is they haven't spiked in items. They've gone for the Banshee's Veil on Icon, which is a bit more in the survivability route, so that he doesn't get ganked by the Zac. You've got tank items on your top laner in Xiang, but they're not tanky enough to get through a team fight. They're to survive the lane against the Jarvan. KT, they've got
with the
their
flank.
route.
They lock down 5, and he just does not get to move in this engage. Mid-tower falls, and so does 5.
And when I talked to LPL analysts about OMG, I was told they don't look to so much what the enemy is doing, they focus on their own game and play around it. And if this was a VOD review and I was the coach of OMG, I would say, who said you could start the Drake? Who thought that you were strong enough to take fights when you knew the Cataclysm was still available, when the item spikes were there? Same story under the turret that happened after this. OMG, for an Ocean Drake, walk up and invite short cooldown ultimates to be shot out again, and they lose the maximum.
Yeah, it's not a case of playing your own game this time for OMG. It's a case of making a mistake playing your own game.
You got to start. You didn't get to play games. You left Zac open.
You did.
Yeah, and we all knew. We all said it at the start of the game for the first, 15 minutes. When is the Zac going to strike? When's he going to come out here? When is Pawn and Death going to turn online? And then it just happens around Dragon. And you said, where's it going to happen as well, Papa? The Dragon spawns. We had a long dance, but eventually KT crack it open. And now they are firmly in the lead in terms of towers, in terms of the gold as well.
It's not a crazy amount of gold, though, realistically. 3-2 in turrets, the difference can be made up by 1 or 2 kills, which is the difference, and that 1 extra turret in the mid lane outer. Still very hard to take down, we've mentioned that, but you are starting to see those item breakpoints we were very concerned of for OMG when they took that last Drake fight for the Ocean Drake that they ultimately lost. You've got the rapid-fire cannon for SMLZ. He's trying to distance himself so that he can freely get some hits off.
And when you run a hyper carry against Zac, a nice
good
Feather
dodge.
Storm.
It's going to hit Rakan in the backside, and he has done for so long.
Oh,
Going to
baby.
slap them both together. Here comes the Flying Drag as well, and SMLZ just locked down and deleted by KT.
Skydunk coming through from Smeb to clean this up. Good positioning, we said, in Champion Select against this comp is so difficult. Featherstorm twitched from SMLZ was massive, but someone had to pay for it. It was 5, and then they just turned on to SMLZ.
Yeah, and tragically he twitched it the wrong direction, so there was no chance for him to use the E and actually keep the Zac in place, maybe prevent the follow-up there. But this is why you ban Zac. The Q, the distance between when the first one hits and the auto-attack after is actually obnoxious.
And we were talking about scaling, like, okay, 3 items for Xayah. We could get to that point. The game was good for OMG. The problem is, when you think about how you actually baby a hyper carry to the 3rd item, it's usually clearing in a lane, normally mid lane, happily lapping up CS, getting 80 CS and finding an item. When you're against Zac, your safe zones are so much more constricted because of the amount of engaged distance that Zac can have. He doesn't even need to hit the E anymore. The Q is enough usually when you have a Jarvan especially. And this is the phase where it becomes so difficult to go from 2 to 3 items because every time KT push up the control wards, Xayah's safe farming zone gets so much more shallow.
And one step further than that even, Talia in a side lane's not all that ideal. Wants to clear and immediately roam back to mid as Xiang's actually a little bit out of position.
But Pawn will keep on following after. Score wants to try and get in range of this. Take a lot of damage over time. Arrow just barely misses. But this chase continues, and right now he has to look for the dodge, but it's not going to happen because Score, right on top of his head, finds Xiang.
Easy as you'd like, of course. Pawn just having the package. They commit to a bottom lane fight. Score now immediately rotates towards mid himself, and Baron starts to crop up at 22 minutes as this actual feasible idea. OMG put hard pressure towards it, and that's why Xiang's going to go down. Just a nice little pot shot towards the bottom lane from KT.
It's a really great to see KT, after their last game, which was a loss, come out and then it's the sort of game where you look at their game plan, you're like, oh, this all made sense, you know? Yeah. You started in the swaps, you understood you needed to lose a little bit because where the game was at, you respected the globals, you grouped, and then when was the fight coming? When was the fight coming? Finally, OMG opted into a fight, and KT was set up, their spikes were ready, and from there, it hasn't been suicide in the enemy jungle looking for a stylish kill. It's largely followed. Now, they haven't stuck the landing just yet, but at least KT are playing the sort of League of Legends they did at the start of the season, where it all followed a particular formula.
Yeah, I'm sure Pawn will find a way to die once doing it, but maybe once is, okay this time around, because 3-0-4 is a fantastic way to start it off here, Papa Smithy. Even getting a turret in the bottom side of the map during that.
You know what scares me the most, guys?
What's that?
I start wondering that if we get to a game 5, is someone going to put up their hand and suggest KT Rolster?
No, I don't think you could do that. It's a voting system, isn't it?
It's going to at least be a voting system.
But there is the chance for it, because everyone is expecting the KT win right here against OMG as the catch comes down onto 5. He just jumped away from that one, though. And then the next game becomes even more weighted towards the LPL. You have RNG taking on MVP. Miraculously, if MVP managed to win that game, we could go to a game 5, and we just don't know what the form is right now. Do you say KT is better than SKT in a 5th game?
No, I don't, but someone might, and that's what scares me.
Yeah. Of course, using the LPL method, you can't vote for yourself, and that's where the concerns come in. If SKT vote for someone and that one extra team's like, you know what, I think it's KT.
Solo queue all over again. I can believe in myself, but I don't know about everyone else, Rusty.
Well, we're still looking at this game right here for KT, and honestly, the win is on the horizon for them.
Weird how we kind of prescribed the right one. It's 4,000 gold, it's a Drake, but the items are perfect. OMG, all they can really do is push up waves. We're waiting for the inevitability to transfer into the actual game-winning push. Still inner turrets alive for OMG.
And this is one of those moments where the vision control has been around the Baron for OMG, almost rather successfully and uncontested by KT until about now. They've got the Zyra coming through, Zax's always around the corner, and OMG were looking for these opportunities to pick. The Scuttle Crab was the one saving grace for them at this stage, but even then, with the explosive plants, they were aware.
Again, more damage there. Massive just catching our 5. We'll take him down to around half.
Might was playing with fire, though, with everyone nearby. He had knowledge of it.
Surprisingly, hasn't gone Leandri's rush. Went for a very fast rush on Redemption, even after the Redemption nerfs alive. So surprising to see that. I guess knowing how brash his teammates are and having a bit of healing might be the way for the Zyra.
At the same time, 2 early Quicksilver Sashes from KT just to get out of that initiation to 5. In fact, all of the CC coming in from OMG. Because they do have it in buckets. Now that was just a recall there on 5. And it's now 25 minutes in, so we are looking towards the Baron area. You can see both teams placing down their vision in their own jungle, trying to push it up and see if we can actually get any information of your OMG.
I mean, the vision is excellent, actually, from OMG. You mentioned just a second ago around the Baron. It's advanced, it's also shallow. It's a sort of a vision where you need multiple sweepers or multiple control wards to clear out all the relevant information. So OMG can continue to make the play, and like you say, Rek'Sai does, on a budget, provide extra vision. So for now, KT, who want to close the game with a Baron. You see the Corki Rockets and the Baron minions coming up, and you can be pretty confident about KT. This is kind of their last frontier, and being able to open up as a sort of lead that finally OMG won't be able to answer.
And of course, the thing with the Zac that you have to remember is whilst their vision is great, all it takes is one bush to not be warded. And that's the one that is 1,900 units away, where he's still able to get the engage off from. You just don't even know how far away he's going to be. Always possible. And KT, they've actually bought back all of that vision. OMG had to recall and start to buy more control wards. There's not a crazy amount in their inventories right now.
The longer this goes, though, the closer SMLZ gets towards his 3rd item. He already has the pickaxe and the BS sword on his way to the Infinity Edge. Now, if you say that, and then you have Score and Smeb ready just to jump on his face regardless of how much he builds. So it's tough, but he's getting there in terms of damage.
And the builds were halted from KT when it comes to pure damage. 2,500 gold on QSSs of the gold lead, just for safety. The spikes are still going to be relevant, still going to put out massive damage, but they turn onto Baron.
the Baron.
They do back away though. Arrow is launched onto Jirko. He's still rooted and all the CC. He literally can't move. And in comes SMLZ and 5. He gets the big turn off onto KT. Jump over the wall. Smeb goes down. Icon claims the glory of that kill. And all in all, it is a 1-for-1 trade.
And it's not going to be something that will allow KT to turn on to Baron. The re-engage.
Oh, Score coming back in once more. Once with the auto attack, didn't quite happen for him. Xiang trying to get away with 5, who jumps back to his ADC pawn on the front lines. In comes SMLZ from the 5 as well, forces the flash. Feather Dance not going to be doing all that much while Xiang trading with Score on the side. And Let's Bounce pretty much as a disengage.
And they just came in into the same sort of area around the red side into Azaya damage. She wasn't able to be CC'd. Sure, the Rek'Sai was dead, but ended up giving up Smeb's knife. Like, Smeb will be able to teleport in 15 seconds, but that's the sort of equal trade with Azaya on the precipice of 3 items that you like if you're OMG.
Absolutely, and especially getting to that flank position, going for the crit bill. Once that 3rd item is there, we'll be able to 1v1 most AD carries and mid laners running around on the Rift, maybe close with Corki. A lot of this, for me, a lot of this engages. Whilst it's nice, and they immediately take out Jirko, there's no way they follow this one up because of 5's ability to come back to Xayah specifically. The extra dash range is what keeps him alive. And remember, throughout all of this, Icon's able to generate enough damage as just a champion with SMLZ to get the picks. Stutter step, nice movements coming out of 5 and Xiang to stay alive as well. Could have been close to a 2nd pick. Would have been the Baron if the 2nd pick came through. Remember, the jungler of OMG was the one who died.
There is an engage happening when we jump back to live. There's the slam coming in from Score. And 5 instantly just detonates. We've got Score still being held back, but everyone is starting to die from OMG. They've lost their ADC. Double kill coming in for Smeb as well. Chasing down Jirko. Does not get to take the tunnel. And 4 kills to KT. An overextension from OMG.
Yeah, this time the terrain was in their advantage. This time they could start the fight and gap close onto SMLZ. He dies. They turn onto Baron. No one there to contest it. Xiang cannot home guard in fast enough. And that was what KT needed to finally pick up the Baron.
Absolutely was, and Pawn is a monster right now running around on Summoner's Rift, having all the big item spikes. This is the perfect positioning from Score. He's on a control ward, gets the fight, Ash gets the arrow, everything here collapses perfectly.
And you just look at SMLZ, who's actually flanked by Pawn, who walks in, crits him to the face, he's dead. Then the Cataclysm is perfect. This is what they were shooting for in the enemy jungle, but instead their target selection was, all right, let's kill the jungle, we can do Baron. But the moment all the gap closes, they had to walk out. This time, in the open, able to get the picks they want, able to get the buff they want, and now they can play 3 lanes, they can dive 1 lane. A lot of options here for KT Rolster to break the base.
And the carries are gigantic. Pawn right now is 506. He's got his triple items, and he's working his way towards the 4th, and he's got the QSS bottom lane doing pretty similar things, 209. And OMG, I mean, you're looking at SMLZ, and last fight, he doesn't get to participate. Comes in, gets flanked, and then instantly dies. Now OMG firmly on the back foot. KT with the Baron, as you said, Papa, going to be pushing up all of these lanes. And OMG doesn't look like they are too long for this world at half an hour into this game.
We wrote off their death early. The eulogy was premature. Mistake made by KT. Not a big enough mistake to change the tide. Now they'll take a free Mountain Drake. Corki doesn't need the backup of his team to put the push into the top lane. They can just have Zac shadowing the Ashe lane and the bot side. Play 3 lanes, start to push up, and then if the turret dives there, they certainly have the cavalry to make it happen.
For sure, it's one of the most LPL compositions you'll see from KT. Of course, one of the closest to the LPL teams from Korea themselves.
Hey, it's been working for them today. Why not steal the job and bring back something that was there at the start of LCK Summer? The reliability of making the initiation is not in any question, and so far it's worked out.
And just having engage everywhere from KT's side, being able to use the lead they have, accelerate that. A bit of the Korean finesse with the LPL composition.
You say everywhere, and I know you're not facetious, because Pawn, he'll get in there with a knock-up.
Oh, you know it.
With the special delivery. He's happy to initiate. We've seen it many times.
I was very much meaning him specifically
All 5,
as well.
Baby.
Yeah, quite literally everybody.
It was a big buff when Corki got a knock aside.
As you said, you know, engage is at a premium for the LPL teams, and KT has definitely come out with that in spades. You see Score again, just sitting in fog of war, lurking in the shadows, waiting for his opportunity to start jumping onto them.
No one can stop Deft.
Just stepping up and almost takes away all of the tower's HP.
It's Icon's responsibility to stop Deft, actually, to use the seismic shove, not SMLZ, but someone has to answer top lane. He's about to just take it.
Oh boy. I mean, what's Icon going to do right here? He misses the flick, and I mean, Corki will just take away the tower. And it feels like it should be a little bit harder for them to break the base, but apparently not. Better Storm comes up. Good timing on that one. We'll see what damage SMLZ can do in this one. His front line is holding, but the towers are down. And right now, KT pretty much got what they came for. Arrow goes wide. And for now, KT, they'll see what else they can get from this engage. It may even be the inhibitor as well.
They have to respect 5, who does have Flash and all his suite of initiation.
Watch the Zac.
Keep walking up here. They do get mid lane inhibitor.
Always threatening, and that's the problem. SMLZ used his ultimate to survive once, but Zac's E cooldown is far quicker than that of their opponent.
Wall comes up, but unfortunately they don't catch anyone. Pawn, he gets over the wall and then face plants another wall.
Yeah, he stacked that one, but that's sort of a skateboard trick that you can stack, and then you still have the highlight video from before. It's fine.
Yeah, don't worry, just cut the tape on that one. We're all good. But KT managed to get 2 towers, 2 inhibs off of that Baron push. Go back to base. I mean, the pockets are lined with gold, and that's represented in the items as well. OMG, I mean, when do they call it? When is the time to go in? And even if they do, it's no guarantee they'll even get a good trade.
I mean, realistically, the time for OMG is as soon as possible. If they don't go in the next time, then the next turret gets threatened, the inhibitor falls down, and with 3 inhibitors gone, there's nothing stopping KT from playing the game out slow, getting another Baron, and just winning the game through the inhibitors alone.
And it's another game where the tank itemization kind of tells you the story, because Smeb and Score just press all their buttons at SMLZ, and he can flash past them to try and do damage to everyone else. There's really nothing you can do, even with Summoners up, to push past Zac with Randuin's and a Gargo Stoneplate Guardian Angel on the Jarvan, whereas Pawn and Deft, they've hit their item timings, they even have QSS if they step up too far. So even the itemization is going to take one hell of an outplay for there to be anything for OMG.
It hurts Papa Smithy to say, in the draft phase, Xayah was a bad pick. It just hurts.
Yep. That first rotation was a bit questionable, especially giving over the Zac now to Score, and you've seen how effective he has been.
He's got his package here, Pawn, actually, and OMG are going forward.
I mean, they've gone for the engage, and they pretty much have to, but the Strong Thorns is huge, and they can't do anything. Everybody knocked up, and everyone taken back, courtesy of Score.
Here he
Black
comes.
Drive, the ultimate as well, and he's about to put them in the body bag here. Xiang doing what he can, but he's just going to go down. And Score chasing out Icon. He tries to get to the back lines, but it's just useless. Triple kill to Pawn, and they go for the jugular.
And the opposite day continues. Can you believe in SKT and their Samsung in the first 2? The answer was no, but KT Rolster come back to the form they've shown in fits and spades, and they will make it a series. We're going to game 4.
Oh, we're going for the spawn pad as well. Of course we are. And KT keep the hopes and dreams of the entire LCK region alive.
It's important for KT, it's important for the entire LCK region to get that victory, and they did make it look easy. They proved why this was a free win for them ultimately. OMG, the 4th seed, super inconsistent, but we're yet to see the good side of them in this whole tournament. Torn to shreds by the KT roster. I mean, you gave them Zac. You did make it just a little bit harder for yourself.
And the amusing part, though, is that KT, they have done the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde quite a lot this season, where they'll have a game 1, they explode people, even against Rox Tigers in that last series. Game 1 was Pawn on Corki and a complete domination of Rox Tigers. So the best of 1, which worked against SKT and Samsung, in my estimation, this time around, it was the good KT Rolster. And like you say, dominated OMG, but the work, I think, starts in the next match, because now we need to believe in MVP.
That's the big one.
Because they've done their job, right? KT had to win that series, but it seems like LPL got the better when you look at the big picture, because now RNG going up against MVP, they literally need a miracle. And I don't feel we've seen enough from MVP to say they can take on the consistency we've seen so far from RNG. It's going to be difficult. We're going to send it over to the analyst desk, though, to see what they think about that game.
Thank you very much, Paulson. Yes, the LCK does stay alive in this series, but it was expected, and now it's all about the next game. But let's take it back. KT did play controlled. They did play consistent this time based on the picks that they were able to get.
Yeah, it seems like the dream has to be a little bit reassessed. This is when LPL starting to wake up. Just to look back at the draft here, because KT gets their hands on Zac. And Zac is the big focus for us. What's happening here? Why is this pick getting through?
I mean, you used the word wake up, but I feel like we're still asleep at the wheel. Like, what is that? That's Zac in the jungle. That's Corki, Pawn's Corki of all things.
Yeah.
And Icon had the potential to grab that pick away from him. He chose the Taliyah. So draft order there, I feel like everything was really given to OMG to make sure that that didn't happen. And they opted into this just terrible choice.
For me, just to take a second look at this, because for me, I liked the Taliyah just because of the early shove, right? biggest focus is because there were so many top lane bans that I was looking towards what would Xiang pick. And in domestically in the LPL, he would go towards the Shen. And even though it is good, it has a good matchup versus Jarvan, suddenly you're on a scaling composition. You have to wait a lot more, and it felt like waiting is something OMG couldn't do here.
Yeah, the issue for me was the fact that they opted in for the Taliyah straight after that second ban phase. The issue is, right, what you can do is that you can then pick the Jarvan there. They know that Pawn's going to go for the Corki, so it's sort of almost like they said, all right, Xiang, well, we've only banned top lanes, but we're just going to leave you and you're going to be screwed anyway. Like, that is the clear mistake, according to me, as far as that draft was concerned.
It's a mistake, just to take it away, because it's a mistake because, I mean, if they're not willing to go back to their old scale-up style, and if they're looking to contest a lot more earlier on, then they just pick on the Jarvan, right? What do you think, Frost?
I don't know. I'm all about the Xayah. I think that's where you make the adaptations there, where you can start grabbing some of these priority champions like the Corki, like the Jarvan, or maybe even change up the draft completely just because the AD carry pool hadn't been shrunk that much. And we know SMLZ can go to things like Jhin and make it work in this meta, but for some reason they're just so tunneled in on priority picking Xayah that it locks them into these scaling compositions because they'll forego everything else.
Also, Taliyah has had a fantastic tournament so far, so maybe Icon's just thinking, well, like we saw Westor, he fell down like, what, 150 CS behind his opponent. Didn't matter. The Weaver's Wall was still fantastic in the late game. And OMG probably thought that they could just try and stall this one out. So they've got that ridiculous Xayah. So you can understand the mindset. It's just not going to work against KT because if KT get ahead, and when they're smiling, we mentioned this earlier on, when they were sitting at that desk, this was a happy KT, and a happy KT is a terrifying KT. And this time you saw exactly why.
And it started out for me when OMG started contesting for Dragon, because at that point on, it was like, oh, what are they looking to do? They're trying to get Vision on down. But then, funny enough, Score had an interesting position, Frost.
Yeah, he was sitting in a bush, and I was like, why don't you just check that bush? It's like one of those things where you're walking by it, just put your face in it. And it's not so much the fact for me that OMG were contesting, it was when they were contesting. Papa Smithy brought this up in cast, and I'm just going to echo it here. On the item breakpoints for OMG, they are not strong to fight right now. You have a Trinity Force that's live on the Corki. You have, I believe, 2 completed items right now on Def's AD carry. Like, why are you choosing to fight for this? Because if you lose, you're just going to fall further and further behind on a scaling composition. That's an Ocean Dragon. That's not worth your game.
And they also don't even get the Ocean Dragon, unfortunately.
They were just fooled by how many people they saw on the map looking to contest. They didn't see the Zac, they didn't see the Corki, and then when they get shocked by it, it's all about positioning because they didn't have the positioning. They couldn't protect for their AD carry. They couldn't protect for their backline. And the problem with Shen here is that definitely he's not going to do too much when he does not have taunt.
Yeah, the Flash actually condemning his partner there as well. So easy double kill for KT, and it honestly looked like it was just from then on, it was a problem. As Zac gets ahead, and it is just disgusting. You put Zac in the hands of a player like Score as well. I mean, we've been talking him up forever, it seems. I mean, he's been absent from the competitive scene, the international competitive scene for a long time. However, we now get a taste of exactly why you don't give him the power pick.
Yeah, it was in that big kind of closing mid-game fight when the reach of Zac from over the Raptor Wall, I believe is where he started, just lands right on top of SMLZ. And before we show that replay, what you need to notice is that SMLZ doesn't have Flash. The reason why, and when he gets obliterated by the flank from Pawn, is because he burned it with his mid laner to chase a kill that his mid laner got. That is just such a fundamental, basic mistake. Why aren't they calling in team fights, hey, I have this kill, instead of wasting 2 valuable summoners on your 2 carries to chase something down?
And regardless of that, because even if you did have Flash, Pawn had an amazing game. Pawn had an amazing flank. And I thought that this is a type of Pawn that we'd like to see. With that being said, it's the Zac show.
Yeah, Score is easily going to be able to pick up this MVP. And look, he deserves many, many more here on the international stage at 1-1-15. Fantastic scoreline. He's on the Zac. Admittedly, I mean, it feels a little bit free win when you get it, but we've seen it lose so far. Casa wasn't quite as successful yesterday. And look, it now all comes down to this. We have to move towards RNG versus MVP. KT have got us there, but it's a very scary proposition for an LCK fan.
Yeah. How are you feeling?
Look, I'm happy because, like, the thing is with me is that I was an LPL commentator. Like, I've still got the I still think about LGD sometimes at night, you know, getting really upset. Like, I still have the LPL tendencies, so
just wake up in a cold sweat.
Fine. Yeah, I certainly do. But we are going to move on, guys. I'm sorry. We're going to have to throw it over to Wendy for some translation of the interview.
Hello everyone,
welcome to the 2017 Rift Rivals.
我是今天的主持人小熊。现在呢，在我身边就
So
是
we now
刚
have
刚
Deft
LCK
for the
拿下第一
interview.
胜的 KT 选手 Deft。안녕하세요。
네, 안녕하세요.
好，我们这边人气非常非常的
He is
高。
definitely
我们
very
接下来
popular.
问一下，因为刚刚其实相信支持 LCK 赛区的观众朋友一定都非常的紧张啦，因为
So we believe
LPL
everyone
现
was
在
very
的分
nervous
数其实是平台
for
状态，
the
那
people supporting
LCK 的希望
LCK.
其实都是担在 KT 身上，那他压力一定非常大。
So you must have a lot of
이제
pressure.
LPL 한 경기 차이로 이제 이기게 됐는데 한 판 이기셨잖아요. 이제 부담이 많이 됐는지 물어봅니다. 일단 저희 LCK에서 1, 2경기에서 좀 믿었던 팀들이 무너져서 조금 부담감을 안고 하긴 했는데 그래도 다행히 이긴 것 같아서 他说前两队就是有一点不如预期的结果，但是所以
So
还蛮有
the
压力的，
performance
但
of
是
the
还好就是
previous
赢
two
过这一场
teams wasn't
是
as
的，今天在选
expected.
角部分，其实感觉 LCK 是占了非常大的优势。
So we did see that for the champion
我注意到
picks,
LCK 今天
KT
的 AD 都是
did
选择
have
了
an
艾希。那我刚
advantage.
在跟后台的主播赛评讨论，他们是说，OMG 这个先亮了差雅这只角色。那一般来说，艾希会比较难打差雅一些。那为什么他还是选择了艾希呢？
이제
So
자야가
Ash versus Zaya, Ash would have a harder time. So why did you still pick
먼저
Ash?
잘 골랐는데 애쉬를 고른 이유를 알 수 있을까요?
일단 애쉬로 자야 상대로 그렇게 힘들지 않다고 생각하고 또 저희 팀적으로 애쉬가 필요한 그런 뱀픽이어서 고르게 됐어요.
就他觉得其实艾希没有很难打
So he thinks that Ash is not a hard champion
艾希
to
是
play.
必须的，所以才会选这一支。
And because
今
Ash
天
is a
艾
must
希
for
很
the team
多兵线
competition.
的开战是非常的漂亮，想问一下他有没有特别针对对方哪一位选手去開大兵線的？
So
이제
did you
오늘
focus
애쉬
on
공으로
any
인지의 팀을
specific
되게
player
많이
in the
하셨는데요.
opponent team?
그 중에서 뭐 특별히 누구를 많이 노렸다거나 그런 거 있나요?
특별히 누굴 노린 것보다 일단 한타를 열라고 많이 노력했는데 좀 처음에는 그래도 괜찮게 썼는데 갈수록 좀 긴장을 해서 맞질 않더라고요.
他说就是没有特别想要瞄准谁，但是
So
一
he
开始
didn't really think
命中还
about
蛮
who to
好的，但
focus.
是越来后面就太紧张，所以
However, he did
命
get
中
a
率
bit
其实蛮
nervous
低的，
later.
所以很难过。
And he
可是后面
didn't
其实
really
越打
land
越顺
any
风，怎么
ult,
会
and he
变
was
得更
very
紧张
sad.
呢？
이제 게임이 후반에 갈수록 점점
However, the game was
승리가
going better for
가까워졌는데
KT, so
왜
how
긴장이
come you got
되셨는지
nervous
궁금하다고 합니다.
instead?
글쎄요, 그냥 긴장이 됐어요.
他说他也不太了解，就是觉得很紧张。
So he doesn't
现场
really
观众
know,
好像
he
就
just
觉得
feels very
非常的
nervous.
可爱。那我想问一下，因为我一直都知道 KT 的战术都是非常的激进，打法非常凶狠，但
So we
今天
usually
显
know
示
that
感觉
KT's
很
style
保
is
守，
more
这是战
aggressive.
术的一环吗？
이제
So how
KT의 팀
come
스타일이
this
좀
time it
사나운
wasn't?
그런
So was it a
싸움을 좋아하는
strategy?
그런 느낌인데요. 오늘은 게임 전체적인 내용이 좀 천천히 이게 템포가 늦게 진행된 것 같은데 이게 전략으로 준비된 건지 궁금하다고 합니다.
일단 상대 팀이 쉔 탈리아 이런 좀 합류가 빠른 픽들을 골라서 저희가 좀 확실할 때만 싸우는 그런 쪽으로 해서 조금 게임이 천천히 됐던 것 같아요.
就是因为对面有很多支那种可以在很远的地方支援的全球人的招数，
So
所以
he's
他们
saying that the
觉得
opponent did have a lot
就是
of
可以确
global
定要可以
champions.
赢的时候才要打，所以
So
跟
that's
打
why
得
they
比较
have to
保守一
confirm
点
that they
是的
can
中
win
后
and
期
then
风向
start
带
the
得非常
fight.
好。那最后有没有要跟等一下要登场的 MVP 喊个话？
So lastly,
MVP
do you have
팀에게 응원의
anything
한마디
to say to
부탁드릴게요.
MVP?
네, 일단 좀 LCK가 지금 좀 지고 있는데 그래도 MVP 팀이 힘내줘서 꼭 5경기까지 가서 다시 역전했으면 좋겠어요.
他说虽然现在 LCK 有点弱势，但
he
是
said although
他希望
LCK is a
MVP
bit
加油可以
behind,
到第5场，我们还是
however,
有机
MVP
会
you
的。
can do it.
好的，恭喜
And let's
KT，
get to
那
game
接下来
5.
就是 MVP 对上 RNG
So we
的
now
比
have
赛。
MVP versus RNG.
Thank you very much, Wendy. And yes, we do indeed have RNG versus MVP. Everyone knew it because, of course, game number 4, it's going to be the last remaining teams that haven't played yet today. And this is going to be a huge test for MVP. We'll see whether we can do it right after the break.